Alright, so remember, guys, we finished 12 Angry Men on Friday. We are going to review today, and then you'll take your test tomorrow. Remember, you can use your notes on the test, okay? Remember, I kind of talked to you about what the test will look like. It is 44 total questions, but remember, you're not having to answer all 44 of those. You have 40 that are short answer. 1 2-word answers is all it requires. Of those 40, you will answer 25 of those. Those count 3 points apiece, so that gets you up to 75. Then the last 4 questions on the test are essay, and remember I talked about essay being 3-4 sentences long. And of the 4, you will pick 2. Okay, those are 12.5 points apiece. That gets you to 25 points with both of them, which gets you to a 100 for the test. Okay. Remember how I told you that you need to take this test? When you get the test, your short answer is going to be first. I would just start reading the questions. And if you know beyond a shadow of a doubt what the answer is, answer that question. If you're kind of, it may be this or it could be this, skip it. And then once you get to 40, go back and count to see how many have you answered. Then go back and figure out which other ones you're going to need to answer, okay? Guys, know this. I will only grade the first 25. If you answer 30 of them, I'm only grading the first 25, okay? So that's why you need to make sure that those first 25, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, the ones that you answer, you got correct, okay? Same thing with those essays. I'm only going to grade 2, okay? They go top to bottom, then back up to the top and back down, okay? They're in the column, so make sure that you're answering them in that way because that's how I will do it, okay? All right, so let's go through this. So remember, this is the guy that is on trial. What is he on trial for? Murder of his father, okay? Do we actually find out if he actually committed the murder? No. Okay, so we really don't know if he really did it, okay? All right, so you've got these 12 men, and notice they're all men because during this time period, this was said in 1957, so during this time period, women did not usually serve on juries, okay? Does anybody know what city this takes place in? New York. There was one clue in there that would have told you. And that was the L train. Do you know what is the only city that has L trains? Y'all know what an L train is?
Chicago.
It's an elevated train that is above, like runs on tracks above the city. And you are correct, it is Chicago. Yeah. Chicago is where it is set. Okay? All right, so we're going to go through and look at each one of these jurors individually. Okay, so remember I told you that as you are watching it, and guys, you have the link, so if you want to go back and rewatch it tonight after we do these notes, you can to help refresh your mind before the test. It's about an hour and 30 minutes long. Okay, so because you can skip the very last part of it after they leave the jury because there's really nothing that happens after that. All right, so let's go through these individually. Remember, we want to look at what was their occupation, if it was listed. Did that juror bring out any evidence that was important? Or did they explain any evidence that was important? And when did they change their vote? Like, what piece of evidence made them change their vote? Okay? All right, so let's go with juror number 1. Remember, he's the foreman. He's the leader. Okay? So he's the one that calls when they're taking a vote, when they're not going to take a vote. All right, does anybody remember what his occupation was?
Yeah, he's a coach.
He was a coach. Yes, he was actually a football coach at a local high school.
I knew I heard that, but I couldn't hear it good, and I was confused on what he was
So
talking about.
that's him. He was a football coach. All right, so let me ask this question. At the beginning, before they were sent back to the jury room, the judge gave them some instructions. And then he said that the alternate jurors are excused. Do you know what the alternate juror is? Okay. In a court case, they're going to pick 12 jurors, And then they're going to pick some alternates. Sometimes it's up to 4, sometimes it's only 2. And what an alternate does is they sit there and they listen to the evidence just like they're a regular juror. They are there in case one of the 12 can't make it that day. So let's say that juror number 5 has a wreck or has car trouble and is not able to make it to the jury that day. Well, since he misses a day of the evidence and all, he's not going to be able to be a juror. So what they'll do is they'll take one of those alternates and put them in his place because he's already heard they have heard all the evidence. They've been there, so they would just take their place.
So they're like a sub then.
Yeah, like a sub. Yeah. Okay.
So he was an alternate?
No, none of these were alternates. Okay? But my question is going to be, if juror number 1 had car trouble or had a sick kid and couldn't have been there for one of those days for the trial, would it have been different?
Yes.
So you're telling me that he brought up a piece of evidence that was very, very important.
They said that they're going to fax it up here.
Okay, so you're good. So did he bring out a piece of evidence that was very important?
No.
So do you think the outcome of the trial, which we know at the end they all vote guilty, would it have changed if he had not been there?
At the end, they all voted not guilty.
Not guilty, I'm sorry.
I feel like he just agreed with people because they had evidence and he just went with it, kind of.
Okay, but what I'm asking though is, did he bring out a piece of evidence that if he wasn't there, wouldn't have been brought up?
No.
No. So could he have been replaced and we still come out with the same outcome?
Yeah.
Yes. So do you think he was important to the outcome of the jury?
No.
Okay. Was he important in the discussions that were taking place?
Yeah.
What was his job?
Make sure that everything was kind of...
To keep everything calm. Did he do his job? Yes. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions about juror number 1? Okay, let's move to juror number 2. Okay. Does anybody remember what his job was? I may have told y'all. I don't remember. He did say what his job is. Does anybody remember what it was?
A fabricator or something?
Do what?
A fabricator or something?
Nope.
No, that was
Works in a bank. He is a bank teller. Okay, so now normally, most of the times when you go to a bank, the bank teller, the person that you walk up to at the window to cash your check, is going to be female. Guys, during this time, a lot of times it was a male. Okay? Did this guy question any evidence? Think about it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he questioned the knife, did he not?
What about the knife? You're correct in that he questions the knife, but what about the knife?
He said that if the kid is smaller than his dad, then why would it go down?
Okay, so he questioned the usage of the knife. Was it used correctly? Okay. So same question I'm going to ask you about him as I did the first one. If he had not been there, do you think an alternate, if that piece of evidence had not been introduced, would that have changed somebody's mind? Okay, so he brought up how the knife was used. Did that change someone's vote?
Yes.
Yes, it did. Okay, so if an alternate had been there, and that piece of evidence had not been brought up, do you think we would still come up with the outcome of 12 not guilty?
No.
No, probably not. So is he important to the outcome of this jury?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Was he strong in his conviction,
No.
or did he change his mind? He changed his mind. He was easily swayed. Did I not say that on the piece of paper that he was easily swayed? Like for a minute you would think, oh, he's fixing to vote not guilty. No, he's fixing to say he's guilty. He just kind of went back and forth. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about this guy? Okay, let's go to juror number 3. Do y'all like this guy? Did you like this guy?
Yes.
You did like this guy?
No, he made me so
I think-
mad.
That he had a lot of character behind him, but he wasn't the best person.
Okay. What was his problem? Was his problem the boy?
No,
No,
it was
it's
his
not.
son.
It was his son. Do you think that he saw his son in that young boy?
He thought every kid was like his son, and
Yeah, every kid is going to like his son. Okay, so we know he is the last one to change his vote, correct? He is number 12. Okay? So let me ask this. Was this man racist?
Yes, a little bit.
Think about it. Was he racist, or was he just like making the boy into his son and thinking about what he would do to his son if he actually had the opportunity? Did he actually downgrade the way the boy lived, where he came from, or was it just he saw his son there?
both.
He saw
have
his
a little bit of both.
He saw his son. If you'll notice, guys, throughout the movie, he didn't say those people. Okay? He was always throwing it back on his son. Okay? He's a hothead. Does anybody remember what his occupation was? Head of a messenger service. Do y'all know what a messenger service is? Okay, so messenger service, guys, you don't have a whole lot of these anymore, and if you do, they're only going to be in those large cities like Chicago, like New York, those places. Messenger service is pre-email, pre-fax. Okay, so today, if I need to send something to another teacher at another school, I'm just going to email it to them, I'm going to fax it to them, or I would just text it to them, right? Okay? At that time, if I needed to get a piece of paper from one office building to another, they would call a messenger service. They would come pick up that piece of paper, probably in an envelope of some sort, and then they would deliver it. Okay? Like if an architect needed their blueprints sent from one office to another, they would call a messenger service. They would come pick it up. A lot of times these people are on bicycles, and they would take it to where it's supposed to go and drop it off. That's what a messenger service does. Okay? Do y'all see how that is not important these days? I mean, because even if you are an architect and you're drawing a blueprint for a house or something, you're probably going to do it on a computer, and then it's going to be printed out. Well, if it's on computer, guess what you can do?
Save it.
You can save it and email it. Okay? All right, so did he question any piece of evidence?
He said something about the old man.
He questioned everything.
We questioned it.
He questioned everything, but was he questioning it because he didn't know how it was used or why it was there, or was he bringing it to light because he was trying to convict the boy?
He was just saying.
He was
that
against
increments-
everything.
He was wanting to make sure the boy was guilty, right? So everything that the people said, he took at face value. Okay? Everything to him was black and white. Okay? There was no gray areas. No gray areas like, the lady was laying in bed, was she wearing her glasses?
And then he said that it didn't matter, yeah.
And then he kept saying each piece of evidence didn't matter when they would prove it wrong, correct?
And then he said that they were twisting everything. That
Right.
was said and whatnot.
Right. He just wanted to make sure that boy was guilty. Remember, they asked him if he was his judge, juror, and executioner. Okay? All right. So let's go to number 4. What's his profession?
Stockbroker.
Stockbroker. So he buys and sells stock. Okay? Is he going to be an educated man?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Probably he's going to have some college, if not a college degree. Okay. Was he professional the whole time he was in there?
No.
Did he argue with anyone?
Not like other people did.
If he disagreed, let me ask this, okay? If he disagreed, did he raise his voice?
No.
He stayed very calm, right? Okay. Remember, throughout the movie, does he ever take his jacket coat off or loosen his tie much? I mean, he may loosen it a little bit, but not much. Okay. What if he had not been there for the whole trial and an alternate juror had taken his place?
Oh, then it would've changed.
Is there a piece of evidence that he explains or brings up that it was very important?
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
It has to do with the movies.
The movie.
He couldn't remember.
Yes.
Can't remember.
He had went to a movie earlier that week and couldn't remember what the picture was, the name of it, or who was
And
in
that's
it.
what made a lot of people change their mind.
Right, because the young boy had seen the movie.
And he was asked questions about it months later.
Right, and he couldn't remember. But even if he had been asked questions that night, let me ask this though, guys. If you had just come home and the cops had just told you that, number one, your father had just been killed, and number two, you are going to be arrested for that murder because you did it, could you remember what you had done 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago?
No.
Or would your mind still be trying to process all this stuff that's going on of your father, your only parent, because the mother has left, I think. Was it she left or she died? Did I remember?
Never said.
Your mother is not around. Your father is your only parent. So you're trying to process this, that person is dead, my caregiver is dead, I'm being accused of that, and I just went to see a movie and you want to know what I'm watching? Are you really going to remember that? So if we put an alternate in his position, do we come out with a 12 not guilty, 0 guilty verdict? Possibly not, correct? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about him? All right, let's move on to juror number 5. Does anybody remember what his occupation was? I think it does not say in the movie. Does anybody know what his occupation was?
It looks like he's the one who killed his father.
Yeah.
For real.
Well, okay, let's just jump to that. How does he know how the boy feels?
Because he was in the same situation.
Because he grew up the same way the boy did, right? In the slums. Okay? So do you think that this guy would be very smart? Education-wise smart? Or common sense, street smart?
Street smart.
Street
Because
smart,
he-
yes. Probably not book smart.
Because we brought up on the proper way to use the
Yes,
switchblade.
he was the one that brought up how you would properly use a switchblade. Which, did that change anybody's vote?
I think it changed that one guy.
It changed a couple, I think, of how it was used. Okay? Okay, let's go back to his occupation. Anybody know what it was? He is like an orderly at a hospital. Orderly at a hospital would be someone dies, they call him, he comes up to the room and he transports them down to the morgue. If someone needs x-rays, they'll go get him. He will go get them, taking them down to x-ray. If garbage needs to be taken out, guess who gets to do it? This guy. Okay? Do you think it takes an education to do that? Could you teach anyone to take a wheelchair and roll someone down to x-ray and then take them back to their room? Probably for most people. Okay? So we've established that street smart, yes, book smart, probably no. But if he had not been there, would we have come out with the same verdict?
Probably not.
That knife was pretty important, right? Okay.
What was his job?
An orderly at a hospital. All right, so any other questions about this guy? All right, number 6, is this correct? We're to number 6. Okay. It did say what his job was. Anybody remember what it was? He's a painter. He paints houses. Would you have considered him, just the way he acted, educationally smart?
No.
Okay. Would he have been like the juror before him and been more street smart? Yeah. Okay. What was unique about his personality?
He stuck up for the old man.
He was a defender. Like, he defended anyone that was in need, like the old man. Okay? Did this guy bring up any evidence or question anything or explain anything that was important?
I think he questioned something, but I don't know if he really did.
He didn't question anything, but he explained something. And at the time, it wasn't that important, but at the end, it kind of became, when they put another piece of evidence with it, it became important. Does anybody remember what it was? He explained the loudness of the L train. Y'all remember that? When number 8 was asking if anyone lived near an L train, no one said yes, but he said, I've painted an apartment by one, and it's very, very loud. Okay? That really didn't change anyone's vote until the very end when they start putting everything together. Okay, so let me ask this. If he had not been there, and an alternate would have been in his place, do you think it would have affected the outcome?
Yes.
May have, may not have, because an alternate could have been at the L train too. Okay?
Well, we don't know.
What are the odds of that?
What are the odds? I don't know. So, yes, he did bring out an important piece of evidence, but did it change anyone's vote at the time?
No.
Okay? All right. Did y'all like this guy?
Yes. Yeah, baseball game. This man
He had a baseball game he had to get to.
He knows his priorities.
Yes. Okay, so he thinks he knows his priorities. He just wants to get out of there, right? He doesn't care if the boy is innocent or guilty.
He's like, I'll go with whatever.
He's just got to get to that baseball game, right? Okay. Does anybody remember what his profession was? He said it in the bathroom. Nope, that's the wrong one.
Wait, let me think.
Professional mama's boy.
No.
There's a gambler in it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, but that's a subtitles. I don't know.
He is a salesman, like a door-to-door salesman. Would y'all like to know what he sells?
Insurance.
Marmalade,
Wow.
jelly.
Even worse.
Yummy.
All this.
Oh, yeah.
What?
I remember you saying something about Marvel.
Because I have watched this 2 to 3 times every year for the last 7 years. So I could probably quote word for word from beginning to end. Okay? So he is a marmalade salesman. What if, he'd been kidnapped while he was selling marmalade and missed one of the days of the trial, and an alternate had been put in his place? Would it have changed the outcome?
No,
He wouldn't have got to see his baseball game.
Did
No, he wouldn't have
he?
been kidnapped.
Okay, so
That's
So
what
my
he
question-
wouldn't have got to go to the baseball game.
okay, so my question is, did he bring up a piece of evidence?
No.
Did he question any evidence?
No.
No.
His
So-
question-
Turn on the fan. That's what his
He did figure out the fan.
He gets the old man with
Yeah.
a piece of paper too.
Okay. Other than figuring out the fan, was he really important in this case?
No.
Okay, other than being annoying and talking about a baseball game the whole time. What you got?
What's the first line?
Well, it goes to the judge, and the judge is talking about that we have spent so many days in this trial, and this young man is on trial for murder of his father, and it is your job to convict him.
No, it's something like that, but he also
But the
talks about
first
how
said-
it was
Sandy's
the
goes, no,
worst.
I'm not giving you that.
Okay.
It was the worst crime in
But-
their place, wherever it was. I remember that part. That's the only
But
thing
the
I
fact she
remember.
said it, he
I
really
remember
got
that
kidnapped.
part.
They're like, oh, it's
I'm
okay.
pretty sure she got that
Yeah.
pretty on point.
No.
Okay, yes.
What he did, turn that fan on, was the most important thing of this whole movie.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get to that in a second.
He's saving.
Okay.
They probably
At the very end, I'm gonna talk about that in a second. Okay.
Especially the old guy.
So hang on to it. All right, let's go to protagonist, the
Yeah.
hero, the guy that
man.
saves the boy from being executed. All right, so let's just start very general. What was his occupation?
Architect.
He's an architect.
Facebook.
Okay. All right, so with him being an architect, just as best you can. Okay. With him being an architect, guys, do you think that he has to pay attention to details in his
Yeah.
job?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think him having to pay attention to details there played into the way that he watched and listened during this trial and that he questioned things? Okay. when they came in and they took the first vote, he's the only one that voted not guilty. Did he vote not guilty because he thought he was not guilty, or was it there was another reason?
He felt like he was not guilty.
He wanted to,
He wanted to know for
explore
sure.
all options and make sure all bases were covered.
He didn't know if he was guilty or innocent. Okay? He just thought that they should discuss it and look at the evidence before voting guilty or not guilty. Okay? So what if he had not been there?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
totally
They-
different.
Boy,
Definitely
dead.
not.
Boy would have been dead, right?
They
Yeah.
would have voted guilty at the
Yeah.
very beginning.
Yeah, so he is very, very important, right? Without him, we don't have a movie, correct? The boy doesn't have a life. Okay? Alright, let's go with the next guy. Whew, sorry about the video, sorry about the
He
picture.
also did an important piece of evidence.
Who?
The juror number 8 when he pulled out the same exact knife.
Oh yes, let's go back to that. I forgot about that knife, okay? So he does bring into question the knife, okay? The uniqueness of it. The boys, the prosecutor, the guy that's prosecuting this, said that it was a unique knife, that there was only one around, and he finds one. Okay? Do y'all remember what they said about the knife when he pulls it out?
It's illegal.
It's illegal to have that type of knife. Okay, where did he get it at? Same
Line shop in the boys.
In the boys' neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that important?
Yes. Very much so.
Did that change anyone's vote?
Not right away.
Not right away. Eventually, is the knife going to change someone's vote?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Is his name going to be important?
He has no names. Everything will be, I will list it by juror. Juror number 8, juror number 1. That's how I will list them, okay? Unless it's the baseball guy, and I list him as the baseball guy. Okay? All right, old man. This is juror number 9.
I love that picture.
Okay?
Let's see what I
It is the only picture that I could find of him by himself. Sorry, y'all remember that part of the movie. What's his occupation?
Retired.
He's retired. Guys, I'll be honest with you. In my 45 years, I have been called to jury duty one time. I did not get picked for the juror because when Mr. Cole was in here, he said, you know, if you're a teacher or you've come to college, you will not be picked for a juror in Winston County. I was on the, that's why I didn't get picked, because I was a
Wouldn't they
teacher.
want you to though? Because like this is just like me question, like asking. Wouldn't they want you to? Because like you're smart.
That's why they wouldn't want you there. Because they think that if you're educated, you'll probably think through things a little more logically than someone that may not have gone to college. And that if you didn't go to college, they're automatically going to think, well, they weren't smart enough to go. So that means I can change their mind. I can sway them.
No.
Okay? And the case that I would have, that I was called for jury duty on was an abuse case of a child. So with me being a teacher, that was automatically, you know, we're going to strike her from the very beginning. But what I was getting at though, guys, is when I went, there were a lot of elderly or older people that were there that had been retired. And sometimes they're there for jury duty. Other times they're just there to watch the court case because they have nothing else better to do. Okay? Now, so we know his occupation's retired. Did he bring up a piece of evidence that was important? He brought up 2. Okay, so what is the first one?
The one about the guy that lived below them,
Okay.
on his leg,
Uh-huh.
and how there was no way he could get there in like 14 seconds or however.
Okay, so he kind of brings in the fact that there was no way that the older man could have made it from his bed to the door in that amount of time. He also questioned the guy. If you remember, he was the one that brought up he had a hole under his arm in his jacket and that he was trying to probably look more important than he was. Do you think he related to the old man?
Yes.
Probably did. Okay? What was...
That with the lady in the glasses?
Yes, okay, that's why I was going to ask. What was the second piece of evidence? And it was the red marks on number 4's, on number 4's nose. And he said that the lady had those same marks, and he started questioning it, and they come to find out that it was, he wore glasses, which caused the marks. The lady had the marks, so therefore she probably wore glasses. Did that change anyone's vote?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Was he important to the outcome of this
Yes.
case? The old man, was he important?
Yes.
Yes, he was. Okay. All right, let's go to the next guy. Did y'all like him?
No.
I liked him last night at number 3.
Yeah, I think out of all of them, he's the
I
one
honestly
that I
don't
don't like.
remember him.
I don't like
Okay, so first of all, let's start. What was his occupation? Does it not say it on there?
No, it says he was a cold.
He has a couple. Okay. So no one remembers what his occupation was? He owns a garage. Fixes cars. And he owns, like, I think 3 of them.
That would explain his temper.
Okay? Now, would you consider this guy racist?
Yes.
Did he say something to that one guy that was like the weather or something?
Yes, he does. He does say something to the immigrant. But if you'll notice, how does he always refer to the boy? Anybody remember? That kind, those people. So he would actually be considered a racist at this point. Okay. Just think, guys, through your life, have you ever known someone like this?
Yes.
I mean, if you live here in Winston County, you probably do. Probably some of them's part of your family.
And those are the fun ones to be around.
I mean, I had a person that was kin to me. He's dead now, but he took his granddaughter to the health department when her girl was really little to get shots. And just so happened that a little black girl was there, and he told his great-granddaughter, that was about 2 at the time, to go over and hit her. Simply because of the color of her skin. Okay?
That's pretty
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. But do you know someone like him, like this guy in your life? Okay? Did he think the boy was guilty because of what he did or because of who he was?
Because of the color of his skin.
Because of who he was. Yeah, he was racist against the guy. He didn't like anyone that wasn't like him, which meant anyone that lived in a slum he didn't like. Did he bring up a piece of evidence or question anything? No.
Is he the antagonist? Mostly?
Him and number 3, I think, would be. But I think number 3 would be the main one. Okay, so let me just ask that question. If he had not been at the jury one day, at the trial one day, and they had replaced him with someone else, would we have got the same outcome?
Yeah.
Probably quicker. Okay? Y'all remember he went on one of those rants of those people. Do y'all remember what everybody did when he did that?
Had an outbreak.
They all like just walked away.
Yeah, they all turned their back to him. And then number 4, y'all remember what he said to him?
He told him he was from the slums
He told him to
too.
sit down.
Sit down and shut up and don't say another word, basically. That's what
No,
they told me. Okay, that would be the stockbroker. Okay? All right, what about this guy?
I remember him. He was my favorite.
He's the immigrant. Does anybody remember what country? He's from Europe, but what country in Europe? Does anybody know?
France. I don't know.
In Spain.
It's Germany. Germany's where he was from. Does anybody remember what his occupation was?
Watchmaker.
He's a watchmaker. Very good. Now, guys, when we're talking about watches, we're not talking about things that we wear on our wrists now. We're talking about those pocket watches that everything has to be set just right in there or they don't work. Or like a grandfather clock. Guys, if you're a watchmaker, you're kind of like an architect. You have to pay very special attention to detail. Did he pay attention to the details of the movie, of the trial? Yes. Did he question any piece of evidence?
I know he got mad, or he yelled at, which one was it?
Yeah, that nice one.
The
Yes.
the salesman.
Yes.
Because he kept
Oh,
changing
yeah,
his
it's like
vote. He said you do it because
Yes.
how you feel.
But was there anything that he questioned? I'm going to tell you, there is something he questioned. No one changed their vote on it, but he did question something. Anybody remember? He questioned if the young boy would have come back if he actually did the killing. Why would he have come back?
Good enough.
Okay. Do you think that this guy had sympathy for the boy?
Yes.
Probably.
Do you think that he kind of put himself in that boy's place because he had been discriminated against just like the boy?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. How important was he? Does he bring out a piece of evidence that changes anyone's vote? Okay. But was he important to the outcome of this?
I feel
Yes.
a little
Yes. So we're not going to say that he is as important as number 8. But he is not as he's not on the same line as the baseball guy. Okay, so he does have some importance. All right, last juror, number 12. So remember what his?
I know he said something about drawing.
Yeah, I remember him talking about his job, but
Uh-huh.
I can't remember what.
Works at an agency.
What kind of agency?
I don't know.
Advertising agency.
Yeah.
So
But
he
they
comes
can-
up like commercials.
Yeah. I know it had to be something with like.
Yeah. Because remember, he was working on a Rice Pop cereal ad. What is Rice Pop? That we
Rice Krispies.
Rice Krispies is what we would call it today. Okay. Yeah. Did he get on your nerves by coming up with those sayings that he would come up with, like let's throw it out on the stoop and see if the cat licks it up, or let's run it up the flagpole and see who
No, I
salutes
thought it
it?
was funny.
Okay. Got on my nerves. What was special about this guy?
He changed his votes real quick.
Okay. Did anyone else change their vote multiple times?
No.
This guy did. He voted guilty,
And then not guilty.
then not guilty,
Back to guilty.
and then back to guilty,
Back to not guilty.
and then back to not guilty. Everybody else, when they voted, when they changed it to not guilty, did not change. This guy did. Did this guy bring up a piece of evidence that was important?
No.
Probably not. Okay? So if he had been out one day and an alternate would have taken his place, would it have changed the vote?
No.
Would it have changed that?
Not whatsoever.
Probably not. Okay? Now, let me ask this question, guys, after we're done with the jurors. Let me ask this question. Did the condition of the room play into anything that happened there?
Yeah.
So think about the room.
Most definitely.
Did what?
I said most definitely.
Was hot?
The heat multiplies extra tension.
There you go. The heat in that room probably caused some extra tension. Probably made juror number 3, juror number 10 a little bit more hot-headed, a little bit easier to set off.
Because I mean, if you pay attention, you know, at the beginning, before they turn the fan on, they were really angry, and as soon as he turns it on,
They kind of start calming down, yes. But remember at the very beginning, they open the windows. What causes them to have to close the windows?
Fast flow.
Yeah, rain. Rain. Okay? So let me ask you this. Evidence was presented. You didn't get to see the trial, but you saw all the evidence that was presented. Is the boy guilty or innocent?
And
innocent.
Think so?
yep.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if somebody stabs somebody, would they just take the knife with them?
Well, my thing
Okay,
is,
how old's the guy?
He's 18.
He's 18.
he's
No,
not
I know, but
stupid.
they
He's
were
more.
saying that maybe, you know, somebody else done it, you know.
But
You
no,
know what
that
I'm
pawn
saying?
shop. Listen, that pawn shop
As somebody older would.
said they said to the kid when they sold him that knife that it's one of a kind.
Yep.
Right.
But then,
But the guy got the same one.
I
Right.
don't know if
How many
it's
people
scam.
have they told that to?
They also
Probably
said-
everybody that bought one.
That's what I'm saying. 'Cause they want to sell more. So.
Yes.
They also said that he cleaned the knife. They cleaned the fingerprints off the knife. So if you're gonna clean the fingerprints off the knife, why not just take?
Okay, so guys, that's
But
what
the
I'm
thing
trying to
is,
say.
though, he
Yeah.
said the man that lived below him said right as he killed him, he heard footsteps. He
Yeah.
wouldn't have had time to clean the knife.
Right. Okay, so think about it, guys. You're the same age as this guy. If you had just killed your loved one, Are you gonna go through this process of thinking, I've gotta take the knife with me, I've gotta clean it up,
Yeah.
I've gotta
If
do
you
all
think about
this?
it the wrong way,
I mean, I take the knife.
No, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna think about it first.
Yeah.
First of all-
Plan it
Plan it
out.
I'm gonna plan this. Like, I'm gonna get away
Alright,
with it.
so I think she's getting.
First of all, I'm going to pray that y'all never are in this situation.
I think
I mean,
Okay.
we not gonna know that.